If you manage WordPress sites for multiple clients, you are carrying a hidden liability. Most agencies don't see it until a 3 a.m. emergency, when a vulnerability in a single client's plugin suddenly spreads across their entire portfolio. You face a very practical math problem. To maintain healthy margins on your monthly retainers, you need to keep hosting costs down. But pushing those costs too low compromises the stability of the sites you are paid to keep online. When an agency is just starting out, standard shared hosting or a WordPress multi-site network are the default choices. They are incredibly cheap and easy to set up. The trade-off is that these setups dump all your distinct client sites into one unsegmented bucket. They share the same processing pool, the same file system, and often the same database. This creates a shared liability time bomb. If one client installs a poorly coded plugin and gets breached, the attacker can traverse the shared server and read the configuration files of every other client on your roster. This chart maps hosting options. The horizontal axis measures cost. The vertical measures blast radius, the risk of cross-site infection. Shared hosting and multi-site are low cost but high risk. Conversely, reseller hosting and VPS isolate environments, reducing infection risk to nearly zero for slightly more investment. Scaling an agency requires predictability. To get that, abandon shared risk models and move to architectures that put hard physical walls between your clients. Many agencies buy a reseller plan, assign a 50 GB storage limit to a client cPanel account, and assume that client is isolated. That is a dangerous illusion. Unless the host runs specialized architecture underneath, a standard reseller account is exactly the same as shared hosting. You are simply looking at a customized billing dashboard. Look at how files are actually stored. Despite separate logins, client A, B, and C sit unprotected in the same file system. A directory traversal script easily bypasses standard permissions. Malware in client A can step backward and drop into client B to read database credentials. The first requirement for modern agency hosting is CloudLinux OS with CageFS. It builds kernel-level virtualization walls, giving every account a private file system. A compromised process in client A hits that boundary and stops, containing the blast radius entirely. The trade-off is that you need a host that explicitly provides this isolation, and you will spend a few extra minutes in WHM managing those separate accounts. But file system security isn't the only shared vulnerability. You also have to consider email deliverability. If 10 clients share a single IP address, and one site gets infected and sends out spam, that IP gets blacklisted. Suddenly, the order confirmations and password resets for your other 9 clients stop reaching the inbox. Assigning a dedicated IP address to each individual cPanel account cuts off that shared liability. Your client's email reputation stands or falls on its own merits. Administrative storage quotas do not protect your agency. True security comes from enforcing physical system boundaries between your clients. Once you secure the file system, you have to secure performance. A portfolio-wide slowdown is just as damaging to your retainers as a security breach. In a shared setup, one client running a flash sale or executing a heavy WooCommerce query can consume all the available processing power on the server. This diagram illustrates a single global processing pool. When client A experiences a massive traffic spike, it pulls all the PHP workers away from the rest of the pool, starving your other sites of bandwidth. The fix is allocating a dedicated PHP-FPM pool and strict resource limits per account. By breaking the global pool apart, client A's spike hits a hard cap. Their site slows down, but clients B and C remain fully operational. For your agency, that means guaranteed uptime for the rest of the portfolio. Cross-site 504 gateway timeout errors disappear entirely. The final requirement for modern portfolios is independent PHP version control for every account. If your server forces a global PHP update to meet the new WordPress 7.0 requirements, any legacy client theme that hasn't been updated will instantly break. That creates a massive portfolio-wide support emergency. Using WHM Multi-PHP Manager solves this. It lets you run an older informational site on PHP 8.1 while a brand new WooCommerce build takes advantage of PHP 8.3's speed, all on the exact same server. By isolating your performance pools and software versions, you guarantee that one client's technical debt or sudden viral success never becomes your emergency. Infrastructure needs scale predictably alongside your client count and their technical demands. You need a clear roadmap for when to upgrade. This flowchart is the Agency Hosting Tier Finder. It matches your current operations with the exact server architecture you need. The first pathway is for solo freelancers managing fewer than 5 basic informational WordPress sites centrally. At this stage, standard shared hosting is acceptable. The monthly budget savings generally outweigh the statistical risk of a breach among a small handful of low-traffic sites. The second pathway targets maturing agencies, managing 6 to 25 sites. These portfolios require separate client logins, varied PHP versions, and absolute security containment. This is the operational sweet spot. You adopt reseller hosting with CageFS. You take on minor WHM management responsibilities, and in return, you get total kernel-level client isolation on shared hardware. The third pathway handles 25 or more sites, active WooCommerce stores, or new AI tools that demand 512 megabytes of memory per process. At this scale, even the best reseller hosting hits a ceiling. Shared hardware simply cannot support sustained high-concurrency database requests from multiple heavy clients at once. The move here is to VPS infrastructure. You trade the extreme cost efficiency of a shared server to get guaranteed dedicated processing power and memory for your clients. This transition provides the ultimate foundation, securing your capacity to scale up operations without hitting unpredictable performance bottlenecks. When you match your hosting tier to your actual operational size, your server infrastructure stops being a late-night liability. It becomes the resilient foundation your agency needs to grow.